Hi, you awesome person. Today, let's talk toxic parenting. My name is Michelle McGowan, and I am a licensed mental health therapist. And I'm so glad that you clicked on my video because you are so worthy and you matter. So take a seat and let's talk. So, have you ever wondered if your parenting style could be toxic or could not be toxic? I know I have, because gosh almighty, parenting is so hard. Because you clicked on this video, you might know where I'm coming from, and you might have had some of those same thoughts, at least once or twice. As a therapist, I know that toxic parenting traits can cause significant harm to a child's overall development and well-being. But as a human and as a mother of two amazing, beautiful boys who I love something fierce, that does not prevent me from struggling with parenting or with toxic parenting traits. Because, like I said, parenting is hard. And as a parent, you might be trying to do all the right things. I believe that parents try to do the best that they can with what they have. But even trying your best as a parent, that doesn't mean that prevents you from making mistakes that may result in future therapy appointments. So, in this video, I will unmask the toxic parenting traits and help you recognize these harmful traits so you can do something about it. You may be asking yourself why. Well, because knowledge is power. And that's why I'm creating this video. So I can give you the knowledge to help empower you to make changes if needed. So with that being said, I will be the first to admit that I have displayed some of these toxic parenting traits that we are going to be talking about today. And I have done my best, and I continue to do my best to avoid doing these toxic parenting traits. And I'm sure you will as well. So, dive right into toxic parenting trait number 1, which is invalidating your child's feelings. So what do I mean by that? Saying things to your child, doing things like rejecting or minimizing or dismissing your child's feelings. So saying something like, oh no, you shouldn't feel that way because of X, Y, and Z. You should look at it differently, or you should stop crying, or you're fine, or stop worrying. Saying something like that is invalidating your child's feelings. You need to know that telling your child to stop crying, that they are fine, does not actually help, and it does not actually help them from being sad. Instead of validating that sadness, you are teaching them to hide those feelings or emotions. Sometimes parents confuse validation with thinking they are agreeing with their child's feelings and behaviors. So in the situation, you may think, if I validate my child's anger, then I'm saying it's okay if they broke their sibling's toy. And I get it. It's easy to draw those thoughts and see how you came to that conclusion. But there is a difference between validation and agreeing with your child's behavior. Validating your child's feelings communicate with them an understanding of their internal experiences. So for example, validating their feelings can go something like this. I can see that you're frustrated. That must have been hard for you. However, it's not okay that you threw your sister's toy across the room. So you can see the statement is very different from saying something like, it's okay to break things when you're angry. You're not agreeing with their actions, you're just validating their feelings. So just to put it simply, by validating your child's feelings, you are acknowledging in a non-judgmental way their feelings, values, and behaviors. So instead of invalidating your child's feelings, try talking to your child and trying to figure out why they are feeling sad or mad or whatever they're feeling, because they're allowed to feel. Try to help them come up with solutions to overcome their feelings instead of having them shove those feelings down. Another toxic parenting trait is praising your child for their achievements and not for their efforts. By doing this, you are sending your child a message that their accomplishments matter more than everything else. Of course, you want to recognize your child's accomplishments and celebrate those accomplishments with them. But you also need to recognize their efforts and praise them for those efforts as well. If you only praise your child's accomplishments, you could be setting your child up to become adults who think they need to succeed at all costs, even if those costs include lying or cheating or stealing or other things of that nature. Instead, try praising your child for the hard work they're putting into things and their willingness to be brave enough to try something that might have caused them to fail. Praise them for those efforts. They need that praise and recognition just like we do. No one is going to be successful all the time, but if you give it your all, that is literally all you can do. And that is good enough. Recognize that and celebrate that with your child. That moves us to toxic trait number 3, which is a more common one. So have you ever found yourself imposing your own aspirations onto your child? If you have found yourself doing this, that is a toxic parenting trait, and it can negatively impact your child. I know as parents, we want what is best for our child. I know you may want your child to have a better life than you have, which is great. However, it can become toxic when you start living your unrequited dreams through your child. By doing this, you are harming their individuality in your relationship with them. You are robbing your child of their ability to realize their own potential. You're also pushing them to grow up without a strong sense of self, which in the end can make them become dependent on you to help them make decisions while also resenting you at the same time. So instead of pushing them to a predetermined role, let them find their own path and try to understand and listen to their dreams and goals and priorities. Encourage them to go after their goals and dreams. Success does not have to look like them living out your dreams. It can look like them living out their own dreams. Allow them to explore that. Moving on to toxic trait number 4. Perfection is such a lovely and overrated word. Expecting perfection from your child is such a toxic parenting trait. And by expecting perfection, you're setting them up for failure and disappointment. Repeated failure and repeated disappointment, actually. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. No one is perfect. No one can do all things perfectly. Of course, there's nothing wrong with setting the bar high for your child. I mean, once again, I know you want what's best for your child. However, you have to remember, perfection is impossible. So setting the bar to a perfect standard is impossible for them to achieve. And by you holding your child to that standard of perfection, you are causing them to feel like they will never measure up, which in the long run may cause them to grow up feeling as though they're not good enough, because they are never able to achieve what you told them that they could or should achieve. So by you expecting perfection, you are sabotaging your child and setting them up for, like I said, failure and disappointment. Instead, try encouraging your child to try their best. Encourage them to do their best and let them know practice is perfect, not that practice makes perfect. So, moving on to the next. Do you let your child think for themselves, or do you stop them from thinking for themselves? Hold on a second. Let me explain a little bit more. As the parent, you have every right to be the decision maker for your child, especially when your child is young. However, as your child matures, they develop their own opinions and they start to think for themselves. And that is a good thing. So you got to listen to your child. Allow them to freely express their doubts. Allow them to ask questions. Saying things like, you don't really know what you want, or you don't know what you're talking about. Or saying something like, I know what's best for you, so just do what I say. Or just saying, because I said so. This is your child's thoughts and desires, which prevents your child from thinking for themselves. And it can cause your child to become a codependent, self-destructive rebel or people pleaser. So, just to clarify, allowing your child to think for themselves does not mean that you're accepting or agreeing with your child's thoughts and or desires, but allows them to feel safe enough to share those thoughts and desires with you. Maybe try explaining your reasoning, disagreeing with them if you do disagree with them. You just got to remember, your child is an independent person with their own thoughts, emotions, and opinions, and that is okay. You want them to be. So let's move on to toxic parenting trait number 6, which is a common one as well. So, have you ever found yourself just snapping at your child? You get so frustrated that you just end up snapping. I know this is a tough one. I know frustration comes along with just being a human being. I mean, there have been tons of times when I have gotten frustrated with my child and I ended up snapping at them. And dang, our kids can push every one of our buttons and they know all the right buttons to push, don't they? Sometimes if they just push that wrong button at that wrong time, it's enough just to send you snapping. Even though this is the case, and it happens to all of us, it is still unfair to our child. So instead, regulate your body to a state of calm, soothe yourself, and you can do this by maybe placing your hand on your heart and providing yourself with self-compassion. You can also say to yourself, I am here for you. You are okay. It's safe. Just calm down. We've got this. You can also try taking deep breaths in and out. Breathing is one of the most powerful ways to release emotions from your body. It is important to do so because emotions are what is driving you to yell. Try taking a deep breath in and out when you're feeling triggered in the moment. Don't expect that emotion just to go away entirely, but do expect it to decrease in intensity. Okay, so now toxic parenting trait number 7 is comparing your child to other children or to their siblings. And if you find yourself doing this in hopes that your child will exhibit the same good behaviors as the child that you are comparing them to, I just want you to know that plan will backfire. Comparing your child to other children does not motivate them. It is not a motivator. It actually damages their self-esteem because shame, honestly, is a poor motivator. So comparing your child to others, you're just judging them and their self-worth. You're also sending them painful messages that they are letting you down and that they're a disappointment to you, or that they are second best, or that just simply they're not enough. Also, when you're comparing your child to another child or to their sibling, you can also be turning that individual into your child's rival. It can hurt your child's character. It can cause them to be a quitter. And honestly, you're just sitting them up when you're comparing them to another child's standards. Instead, try celebrating your child's individuality because each child is their own unique person. So give your child a sense of pride in their identity. Remember, positive reinforcement is always better than negative comparisons. So we're moving on to toxic trait number 8, and this one had me really thinking. So when you make a mistake or do something wrong, do you apologize to your child? No. My parenting is a long paved road with tons and tons and tons of mistakes. I learn from my children every single day. Remember, we as parents are just human beings. Like our children, we are not perfect. I want you to think about it for a minute. How are our children supposed to learn if we do not model the behaviors that we want them to learn? So if you want your children to learn to be apologetic when they make mistakes, you have to be apologetic when you make a mistake. By doing this, you are demonstrating that you are a human and that you make mistakes as well, and that it is okay to make mistakes. Apologizing to your child does not undermine your authority. So if you're worried about that, do not worry about that. It just shows them that you do make mistakes, because we all do. The right thing to do is to take responsibility for those mistakes by sincerely apologizing and changing behavior. But keep in mind that not every situation warrants an apology. Therefore, how and when you do choose to apologize depends on the situation and the age of your child. When you do apologize, show changed behavior so that they can learn apologies are not just to brush things under the rug and help us move on from whatever the situation is. It shows them that every apology actually has meaning behind it. Okay, we're getting through this. We're on to toxic parenting trait number 9, which is using those absolute words, never and always. Absolute words are very strong words. As a parent, especially times of frustration or heightened emotions, saying those absolute words just spill out of your mouth. Saying things like, "You never listen to me," or "You're always late," or "You never do what I ask." Using those strong words like never and always, putting your child in a box of negativity and permanence. And it can cause your child to jump on the defense, or it can just cause them to completely shut down. I mean, if somebody said to you, "You never let me speak," "You're always talking over me," that kind of gets you on the defense. Heck, I know it would for me. Especially if I knew that there was no way that I never let them talk, or that I was always talking over them. There's no way. There's no way that you always or never do things. So instead of using those absolute words, be specific and purposeful with your words. Like saying something like, "Hey, the last 2 weeks you were late for the exact same reason, so we need to figure this out. We need to find a solution to this problem because you can't just be late and coming in whenever you want to." Try to change the situation with a little bit of problem solving instead of boxing your child in and not giving them room for any change or growth. All right, so we're on to toxic trait number 10, which is actually a struggle with a lot of us parents. I want you to think for a second. Have you ever openly criticized yourself in front of your child? If so, you are not alone. But it's a toxic parenting trait because your child can be translating these messages and internalizing your negative self-talk into some pretty toxic messages, and they can start thinking the same or similar thoughts about themselves. So instead, I want you to try to focusing on things that you do like about yourself and point out and compliment those things. And point out and compliment your child's positive behaviors and values and qualities. Remember, you have a ton of positive, beautiful, and awesome physical and non-physical things about you. And if you're struggling to recognize them, ask someone close to you. What are some of those physical and non-physical things that they like about you? Okay, so I want you to remember, no matter how well intentioned you are, toxic parenting traits can sneak into your everyday interactions with your child. However, you do have the power to control and break free from those toxic parenting traits that you may be exhibiting. And listen, just because you have exhibited those behaviors or traits, it does not mean that you're a bad parent, and it does not even mean that you're toxic parenting. Also, it doesn't mean that your child is going to struggle with behavioral or emotional issues. It just means that you have recognized and exhibited one or several of these traits, and the fact that you recognize it gives you the power to do something about it. So, your homework, yes, I'm one of those therapists that give homework, is to do just that. Take a step back and ask yourself if you exhibit any of these traits. And if the answer is yes, work on changing those traits and developing new habits. All right, well, thank you for watching my video. Please subscribe so you can keep showing up for yourself and learning more, because you matter, your thoughts matter, and your feelings matter. So thank you, and have a great rest of your day.